StraightallDay.com.
You are now tuned into the show where you learn the discipline to show up day after day, to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, and the mental toughness to continue showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved. And on top of all this, you get a huge dose of personal initiative. That is the go-getter energy that moves any one of us, including yourself, to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. And then we put all this together into a series of frameworks, approaches, insights, strategies, and techniques, all underneath the umbrella of one unifying philosophy that is called work on your game. My name is Dre Baldwin, also known as Dre All Day, and welcome to the show. And today we are getting into part 3. I believe this will be the last part, probably the last part of this series of how we got here. Well, let me not speak too soon. We'll see how much time this one takes. We may have to go to a part 4, but we will see. So I already left this off where it needed to be left off at. I told you about that. Before I get to that, let me tell you, I want to have a daily motivation text that I send out free of charge to everyone in my texting community. This message is guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. You want to receive it, which you should. Text me at my number, 305-384-6894, every day when I send that text out. Because you're in my text community, and only because you're in my text community, you'll be receiving that message. And go to workonyourgame.net. All you folks who are serious about making more money in your business, let's just talk about straight what it is. Because everything else we do is a means to the ends of making money. We're in the business of making money. You want to learn the 5 keys to making money easily in your business without having to work harder or put in a whole bunch more time or becoming a bunch more talented than you are. Go to workonyourgame.net. The training is free. 45 minutes. Set it aside. 45 minutes to watch that training. Again, workonyourgame.net. At the end of it, I'll tell you how to schedule a call with me. We can talk about how to implement that stuff to your business. Now, all that said, I left you at the cliffhanger of we're at 2009. I am unemployed again. And I just got a message from YouTube. So let's get right to it. Here's what YouTube said in the message. YouTube says, Dre, you have a couple of videos that are very popular, and because of this, we would like to offer to monetize your videos. So now, for the first time, I can actually make money for putting videos on YouTube. This is in 2009. This is when the monetization thing started. So those of you who are not old enough to remember, yes, there was a time when you could watch YouTube videos all day and not see a single advertisement. In 2009, that time ended. So this is when I started monetizing more videos. Eventually, they offered to monetize my whole channel. It's meant every single video I had would be monetized, and that's how I started making money from putting videos on YouTube. But here's what's more importantly happened. In 2009, when I found myself unemployed, I had recently, I told you I'm a big reader. I'm a writer and I'm a reader. So I recently read a book that was like the new age digitized version of Rich Dad Poor Dad. It was for the internet. It was the Rich Dad Poor Dad, but for the internet. And the book was called The 4-Hour Work Week. And it was written by a guy named Tim Ferriss. If you have not read that book, I would suggest you read it. Now in that book, and maybe it was on Tim's blog, I always get it mixed up. I don't remember where exactly I got it from, but it was from Tim. I read his book, and one of the things he talked about in that book, he talked about delegating and outsourcing to overseas. That's one thing. He's the first person I heard talk about that. And the other thing that he mentioned was, here's a way that you can create your own product, test the validity of that product, test the marketability of that product, and start selling the product online all in a very short period of time. Tim Ferriss was the one who planted the seed in my mind. From Tim Ferriss's experiment that he laid out, relatively simple experiment, I followed it, got results, knew I needed to make a product. And this is what had happened. On YouTube, I was a person who always responded to the comments on my videos. I always responded to the people in the audience, even though I had no idea who they were. They were not paying me anything. I wasn't doing it out of any kind of marketing, blogging, branding strategy. I was just a person who I would respond to people. If somebody says something to me, I'll respond back to them. On the internet, even a random faceless person who I didn't know. I always did that, still do to this very day. People would leave comments on my videos and they would say, Dre, could you make a workout program for me? Because I'm trying to work on my game the same way that you work on your game. Because these players saw and they knew my story. Because I would tell a little bit of it in videos like, hey, I only played 1 year of high school. I walked on in college. I played overseas, but now I'm a free agent, etc., etc. Wherever I was in my status at that time. So a lot of players, they saw themselves in me. So that's one of the reasons why I started to build such an audience. Because for every one LeBron or Kobe, you got 10,000 Dre Baldwins, right? So these players were following me because a lot of them saw themselves in me, and because they saw, like, if he can make it, then hey, I didn't make my high school team either, maybe I can too. And to this day, I still talk to these players who tell me this stuff. So these players were asking if I could make training programs for them, and I would always tell them no, because there were too many people asking me to make a program for them. I can't make a program for 100 or 1,000 players, as they were all asking me. So one day a player asked a really good question. Insights, folks. Remember what I told you what an insight is. It's the right question, is not the right answer. Here was the question. He said, Dre, why don't you just write down the workouts that you do and then put it out, and then other people can work out the way that you do. Just write it down. And I said, damn, that's a good point. This is a comment on a YouTube video from a person who I have no idea who they are. And here's what my response to the comment was. I said, I'll do that, but I'm going to charge for it, because I just read Tim Ferriss's book, and he had me thinking like a marketer, like a salesperson. So if I'm giving you something of value, you should be giving me value in exchange. So I'll do it, but I'm going to charge for it. Would y'all pay for it? This happened in the YouTube comments, and people responded in the comments and said, yes, 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 as long as it doesn't cost too much. Now I knew who my audience was. Who was my audience? My audience was mostly male, 13 to 24 years old, wanted to play basketball. So these guys are not millionaires. They're not business owners. They're kids, usually living in their parents' house, trying to make it as basketball players the same way I had been. So it's not like I can have a high ticket $10,000 offer here. So I created two programs. First two programs I ever created. Basic to advanced ball handling and shooting drills. Two programs. 7 days each was if you followed the whole program, it took you through 7 days of how to work on your basketball game for dribbling the ball and shooting the ball. I sold these programs for $4.99 a piece. I put my first video on YouTube. Let me see if I can find that video, because I'm going to tell you when this video actually came out. Because I remember putting this out. So it was either 2009 or 2010. This video has introducing the Hoop Handbook. Basketball, I'm pulling the video up on YouTube right now. Basketball 7-day workouts. What was the... Oh, this video came out a little bit later than I expected, but this is between 2009 and 2011. This is when I started making these programs. This first video has 11,000 views. Introducing the Hoop Handbook Basketball 7-day workout plan manual. This is the first product that I ever put out. Okay, and I sold these programs for $4.99. And I remember that night I made my first sale. Somebody actually bought one of these programs for me, $4.99. I had a BlackBerry phone at the time. This is before iPhones really popped off. This is when BlackBerry still dominated. And a little red light was blinking on the BlackBerry, and it said, you made a sale. Congratulations, $4.99. When I made that sale, folks, I said to myself, this right here is what I need to be doing. Now, I'm still going to play basketball, because this is like halfway through my career. I played basketball until 2015. So this is 2009, 2010 that this happened. But I said to myself, this right here, I could do this forever. I knew I couldn't play basketball forever. And basketball is a young person's game, because eventually your body just can't do it the same way. You can't jump over everybody and run past everybody. Eventually you can't do it anymore. But using my brain and taking something that's in my mind and codifying it and then selling it to people, I could do that till I'm 80. So when I sold that first product, I said, this right here is my retirement plan, is this right here. It's not basketball, it's this. That's what I'm going to do. So I started selling those programs using YouTube as my lead source and sending people straight to my website, hoophandbook.com. Still exists to this very day. Is where I sold my basketball training programs. And that's where I started making money online. Selling products online, at least the products that I personally had created. That's where it started. So this was between 2009 and 2011. I was just putting out as many YouTube videos as possible. There was a time that I was putting out 4 or 5 videos on YouTube every single day, because that's how hot the market was on YouTube at that time, where there were that many people watching, but not as many people also making videos. So around between 2013 and 2015, that's when everybody started making basketball videos. It's the same time I was getting out of basketball, so it was perfect timing for me. But between 2009 and 2011, there was very little competition, but a lot of views, a lot of viewers, people watching. And I sold a lot of programs in that time period. I was still playing basketball professionally. And there were times I had a job, times I didn't have a job. But at this point, it wasn't so anxiety inducing or stressful when I didn't have a job playing basketball, because all that meant was now I got more time to build my brand online and build this market and build this audience. And the ironic thing about all of it is, if I'm out in public, and when I'm out in public, 99 times out of 100, if somebody recognizes me, it's because they know me from YouTube. The videos that I was doing on YouTube in an empty gym by myself working out that led to me selling those $4.99 programs. Now, by the way, none of my programs cost $4.99 anymore, but they're still available on hoophandbook.com. But very rarely, actually, I can't even think of a time somebody recognized me. They knew me from overseas, because who would know me from overseas walking around the United States? Everybody knows me from YouTube, where you do all that work to become a pro athlete, but everybody knows you from the stuff that you did, your homemade YouTube videos. So it's just funny that it worked out that way. But that's what I was doing from 2009 through 2010, 11, 12, 13. During that 5-year period, that's when influencer marketing became a thing. That's when creating content became a thing. That's when social media became a normal phrase. That's when having a brand on the internet became like the best thing you could possibly be doing. All of that started during around that 5-year period for everybody, and I was right in the midst of it. Because by this point, you got to understand, by 2009, when I started making these programs that I was selling, I'd already been putting content on the internet for free since 2005. So I'd already built up a whole bunch of goodwill between me and my audience. I had already established who I was, what I was about, and I've been giving this to them for free without asking them for anything in exchange for years. So when I started selling things, it was easy. I didn't have a sales pitch. I didn't have a marketing plan. I did not run a single advertisement. All I did was put a video on YouTube and put at the end of the video, hey, if you want a training program to do this, go to hoophandbook.com and get the program. And that's how I was selling stuff. That's all I did. I did not have a copywriter. It wasn't anybody working with me. It was just me by myself and my auto delivery. You bought a product, you got an email with the download for the product. That was it. That was my whole marketing plan for 5 years. That's how I got started. And that's where it was. Now, here's another parallel in this story. Now, I told you about the playing basketball part overseas. Here's the other part of the story. The basketball players who were watching me on YouTube at this time, they were, watching the videos, and they found out a little bit about my story, because I would make videos every now and then and just tell them, hey, here's where I played in high school, I walked on in college, etc. And they would just start asking questions about my mentality, like, man, why'd you keep practicing? Why'd you keep trying? How'd you get the confidence to show up at tryouts when you got cut the previous 3 years in a row? Why'd you keep the belief in your mind you could even make it as a pro when you had this very humble background that didn't say you were going to make it? How'd you even keep the belief alive that you could make it? Because that's kind of a far-fetched. The way that I made it in basketball is kind of far-fetched. I mean, you put that in a movie, it'd probably do well in a Disney movie or something, but it's not very realistic what I had, the plans of what I had to do and what I actually did. So I started talking about things like the discipline of showing up every single day to do the work, the confidence to put yourself out there boldly and authentically, the mental toughness to keep showing up, doing the work, putting yourself out there, even when the success you've expected to achieve has yet to be achieved, and the personal initiative to go and make things happen instead of waiting for things to happen. I started talking about that stuff because those are the things that I had needed to make it as a basketball player, despite my background. And when people heard that, first of all, the basketball players appreciate it. They would say to me, Dre, man, you should be a coach when you get done playing basketball, because they like the way that I would explain stuff. Or somebody would say, man, you sound like a philosopher or a college professor. Or here's the other thing that happened. People who didn't play basketball started to see these videos, because what I started doing was every Monday, I would make this video called The Weekly Motivation. And it would just be a little selfie video. This is before selfie videos were a thing. This is before we had video cameras on our phones. So this is when you had to actually have a camera in addition to your phone. And that's how I would make my videos. And I would just be driving somewhere or walking, and I would just make a little selfie video talking about just a mindset principle. This would be a video somewhere between 2 and 5 minutes. If you go on YouTube right now and type in Dre Baldwin Weekly Motivation, you'll see these videos. And I did the weekly motivation every Monday, just talking about a mindset principle. The other 6 days of the week were just basketball videos. I did the weekly motivation every Monday for 400 Mondays in a row. That was the foundation of this very show that you're listening to right now. The Work on Your Game Masterclass exists because of those 400 weeks of weekly motivation. That was started because the basketball players asked me about the mindset that it took for me to make it as a basketball player. So when I started making the weekly motivation, here's what happened. People who didn't play basketball started finding my videos on YouTube, the weekly motivation videos, because again, the other 6 days a week was just basketball stuff. And I would get messages from people, and they would say, Dre, I'm not a basketball player, but I subscribe to your YouTube channel because that 1 day a week, that weekly motivation, listen, that message applies to everybody. That's not a basketball point. That's not a basketball topic, what you're talking about there. That's for everybody. You could be a teacher, you could be a doctor, you could be an entrepreneur. Listen, I heard my son listening to your video, and I started listening. I said, damn, that dude knows what he's talking about. I know he made it for basketball players. That's for everybody. So when I started to get those messages, here's the insight. I said to myself, this message right here can apply to anybody, even if they don't play sports. Now, here's what you need to understand about me. Even going way back to when I found Robert Greene's book in the bookstore back in the late 90s, back when I went to that network marketing meeting, even though I knew I wanted to play professional basketball, I still went to that meeting that said make some extra money, because I've always seen myself as a salesperson and a businessman, not just an athlete. So you want to talk more than an athlete? Okay, I always saw myself as more than an athlete without having to put it on a hashtag or wear it on a t-shirt. I was doing things that was more than an athlete before it was a cool thing to do. So when I realized that people who didn't play basketball saw the value in my message, I said to myself, this right here can be my segue to reach the rest of the world outside of just athletes. Because I always saw I never saw myself as just a basketball player, and I never limited myself to just the basketball world. How can I reach people who don't play basketball? So when I saw that people saw these weekly motivation messages, and I realized that the stuff that I was talking about in those videos was not a common way of thinking. This wasn't the way that everybody thought. I thought this was a normal way of thinking, because that's why I never made a big deal out of it. When I saw that it wasn't normal, I said, okay, I can push this. I already know what it is. I can push this easily. So that's how I knew that I was going to transition my message from just talking to ball players to talking to everybody. Ball players, business people, and everybody in between. So when I got out of basketball in 2015, I already knew exactly where I was going. But before I get to that, let me not get too far ahead of myself. In that 5-year period where influencing and content and having a brand, all those things became really popular, I did a lot of brand marketing, a lot of brand deals. I did stuff with Gatorade, Wendy's, Nike, Finish Line, Samsung, USA Today. It was in newspapers. My face was on billboards. I was in ad campaigns. Did a whole lot of stuff with a Jordan brand. A lot of companies. We did a whole lot of brand marketing just because of the fact that me and a bunch of other people who were in the game early, especially in the basketball space, we did a whole lot of stuff just because of the fact that we were the known guys who were doing basketball stuff way before it was a normal thing to do. Nowadays, everybody's doing it. But back then, there was a handful of guys who were in the game really doing their thing. And I was one of them. I will say humbly that I started it. Like putting basketball videos on the internet for free was started by Baldwin. That's just a fact. I'm not saying it because I'm trying to get clout or anything like that. And look at me, I'm sitting here in a suit. I don't even play basketball anymore. So I'm not asking anything from the basketball world, but it's just a fact. There was nobody putting basketball workouts on the internet for free before I did it, period. And that was during that 5-year period. I built that brand up that still to this day still pays me. And it still pays me in the fact that just the other day, I'm recording this on a Monday, just yesterday, I was walking in Miami, was on my way to Whole Foods, and this guy named Wesley, he saw me in the street and he said, man, I used to watch all your YouTube videos back in the day. And Wesley's a little bit younger than me. He still plays pro ball to this day. And he was just telling me how he used to watch my videos. He doesn't even live in Miami. He was visiting Miami. He just happened to be outside at the time that I was outside, and he saw me. And the day before that, I saw a couple other people who had been watching me on YouTube, and I was in South Beach. So to this day, people still remember me from those videos back in the day when it was all basketball. And these days, it's not basketball at all. So that's the power of having that brand. That's the power of being visible and findable to people on a consistent basis. This is why I tell you, if you're going to build a brand, you got to be out there. You got to be outside. You got to be where people can see you. I don't mean outside like me walking outside. I mean being where people can see you and hear you and experience you consistently, because you never know who's listening and people remember you. Again, these are people who were watching me when they were in 8th grade, and now they're grown men and women because of the fact that I was out there so consistently. That's the power of the brand. So when people look at my brand and work on your game and all this stuff, you got to understand, I've been doing this. I'm recording this in 2022. I've been doing this for 17 years. That's how long I've been in this game, putting this game out for people, and was doing it way before we were not using the phrase social media, content, influencer marketing, personal branding. None of those phrases existed. None of those phrases existed when I started. None of them. Now they're normal things. Just to give you all a frame of reference here for how long I've been in this game. I'm not telling you that to impress you, but to impress upon you that you got to put your time in here. All right. What's the 5 forms of investment? Time, money, attention, energy, and focus. You got to put all of those in to build something that's worth something. So all that said, fast forward to 2015, I knew I was getting out of basketball. At that time, I met someone who was in the professional speaking business. I didn't know professional speaking was a thing. But when I found out it was a thing, I said, that's what I want to do, because I already had like 10,000 hours of speaking through doing videos and making YouTubes and stuff like that. So I met a woman who was in the professional speaking business, meaning she actually got paid money to go to an event, stand on stage and give a speech for an hour, and she would get paid thousands of dollars to do it. I said, I want to do that. I can do that. I can give speeches. So she helped me understand, Dre, you need to have a framework. You need to take what you're doing. You need to create a framework out of it so that you can explain it. You can tell and show it. You can show and tell it to someone who's a decision maker, like a person who would hire a professional speaker, so that they understand how the value of what you did as an athlete can help them in a corporate setting, for example. Because she told me when she first came across me, like, Dre, you have, so let me back up in the story. So I got introduced to this woman. Her name is Dawn in St. Louis. I introduced to her through a former NFL player named Philip Buchanan. Now, Philip, I met at a Toastmasters meeting. Philip and I didn't really know each other like that, but he was going to this conference called the National Speakers Association. He went there because he wanted to get into the speaking business because he was leaving football. He played in the NFL. He had played at Miami, that is, and he played in the NFL. And he wanted to get into the speaking business as well. So he was leaving his sport at the same time I was leaving my sport. Now, he passed me Donna's information because he had met Donna at a conference. I cold called Donna because Phil didn't really know her. He had just met her. And when I cold called her, she said, do you have a website? And I said, yeah, my website is dreallday.com. She looked up my website while we were on the phone. Like within 30 seconds of us getting on the phone, she looked at my website. She saw my website. She saw my YouTube. At this time, I had books. Oh, yeah, I forgot to mention the books. I started writing books in 2009. I wrote Buy a Game, which was my first book. The next book was then I wrote The Mirror of Motivation. I wrote The Mental Handbook. I wrote The Super You. I wrote The 100 Mental Game Best Practices, Overseas Basketball Blueprint. Those are my first 5 books. Or is that 6? 5 or 6 books. So she saw that I had books. I had all those YouTube videos, and I had a website. The reason why she took a liking to me and was willing to take me under her wing as a mentee was because she saw I'd already done the work. I'd already been doing work, and I'd already established something of substance. So she said to me, Dre, the business world loves athletes because you all are disciplined, you have to be mentally tough, you got to perform, you understand leadership, you understand teamwork, and guess what? Business people need all of those things. So all you need to do is package up everything you have learned in such a framework that a business person can understand the value of it, and you can start selling it. That's how I started to get to the idea and the concept of frameworks when she explained that to me. Now, mind you, this is 2014, 2015. And that's how I started to get into the thought leadership space. Now, mind you, I was already in it, actually, because I've been putting out all this content, I already had books, and I already had a brand. But I wasn't doing it intentionally. So then I started doing it intentionally around 2015. That's when I got out of basketball. I'm still selling my training programs online. Now at this point, this is when I start making things like courses. This is when I made Bulletproof Mindset. I made People Skills. I made 30 Days of Discipline. I made ASAP Confidence. I made all these courses that I have still to this very day. I started creating those things after I got out of basketball around that 2014 to 2016 time period. This is also the time when I started doing TED Talks. I did 4 TED Talks between 2015 and 2017. I did 4 different TED Talks talking about confidence, discipline, mental toughness, and personal initiative. Same things that I talk about on this show to this very day. So I was just building these assets, because what's an asset? An asset is something that continually brings a return on investment. So I was building these assets that are continually working for me, still to this day working for me. I was putting these pieces in place. Now, mind you, the time frames that I'm giving you here, I'm recording this in 2022. I haven't mentioned anything that happened in the last 5 years yet. All of these pieces are assets that I was building years back that are still working for me now. So if you're getting into this game right now, don't listen to this to be discouraged. Listen to it to understand that it takes time to build something that is worthwhile. And it doesn't mean it's going to take you 10 years, but it means that you should be looking at everything you're doing as building an asset, something that's going to continually work for you, not just something that's going to work for you one time. So this is what I was doing so that takes up through 2017. So I started doing speaking gigs. I started offering coaching. I'm selling my courses. I'm still selling basketball training programs. To this day, I still sell those programs. People still sell them. People still buy them, rather, even though I don't advertise them. Maybe I'll start doing ad campaigns for them one day. Maybe. And I still have 10,000 YouTube videos, drills that I never put out on YouTube. I still have them saved to my Google Drive. A bunch of videos that I never got around to putting out, because that's how much I was recording. I had a process for my recording. Same way I have a process for recording this show. That's the reason it comes out every day. I had a process for making my videos on YouTube back when it was all basketball stuff. That's the reason why I was able to produce so much material, because I knew exactly what my framework and my approach was every single time. It was a system. The same things, the same way, every time. Any of you want to get into working with a system, you need to be working with me, because I will show you exactly how to do it. So that took us up through 2017, and then fast forward the last 5 years. I started the Work on Your Game masterclass / podcast, this very show. I started this in 2016 and it's been going every day since. This is episode number, I don't even know what episode number this is. We are over 2,300 episodes of this show. The show has been listened to over 5 million times. Let me check the data, the stats for the all-time listens of this show is, I'm just pulling the stats up now. Sometimes it takes a little while to pull these up. All-time, let's see. All-time, the Work on Your Game masterclass has been listened to 5,560,000 times as of today's recording. So last year we did 1.1 million listens. So far this year, as of this recording, we're just at the beginning of Q4 when I'm recording this. As of this recording, this year we've done 1,884,000 listens to this show. So we're going to do over 2 million, well over 2 million listens this year. We may even pass 2.5 million. We'll see. It'll be close. May pass 2.5 million listens just this year alone on this show, which will be almost half of our all-time listens. So this year, this show has blown up. It started in 2016, folks. Year by year, 183,000, 482,000, 671, 650, 565, 1.1 million, 1.8 million. Started in 2016. I'm telling you that to help you understand that it takes time to build something of substance. It takes time to build something of value. All of that led to where we are now. And that led to me getting into coaching people and doing speaking gigs, doing my own events. A lot of it, the foundation of it really comes from this show. The foundation of it comes from this show right here. And I tell people all the time, if I had to drop all the platforms where I put material out and I can only keep one, I will drop YouTube, I will drop Instagram, I will drop Twitter, I will drop LinkedIn, I will drop Facebook. Just let me keep this show right here. If I had to keep one, I'm keeping this show right here. This is the most valuable platform that I have when it comes to reaching the people, the kind of people who I want to reach. My target audience is the people who listen to this show on a consistent basis. This is the place for me, this show right here. Even though I'd rather have the visual, but the people who are my best people are people who are listening to this show. So this is the place that I would stay if I had to pick one. Luckily, I don't have to, but if I did, that's where I would be at. So that's how we got to where we are right now. So just to make sure, I wanted to make sure that those of you who are newer to this show and haven't heard me really introduce myself and explain to you where I came from and how I got here and what led up to all of this, now you know. And what I do now is I help business people, professionals, people who are serious about your business, make money. That's what I do. I help you make money. Now, what are the ways that we can make money? Maybe you need to be more disciplined. Maybe you need confidence. Maybe you need mental toughness. Maybe you need to take some initiative. Maybe you need to condition your mind. It might be about a strategy. Maybe it's accountability. Maybe it's the execution. Maybe it's how you're communicating. But it's probably one of those 9 things. All right, that's the Work on Your Game system that I just laid out for you. Those 9 things that I just said. I help people make money through implementing a system called the Work on Your Game system that helps you get your mind in the right place, your mental conditioning in the right place. We strategize, we implement, we execute, we are held accountable, and we communicate what needs to be communicated, and the end result is money gets made. That's the business that I'm in. So just in case anybody didn't know, now you know. So with all that said, 2 things for you to do. Text me to get my daily motivation straight to your phone, message guaranteed to keep you focused, sharp, and on point. Text me at my number, which is 305-384-6894, and go to workonyourgame.net. That's where you get access to my free 45-minute training where I lay out how I help you do those things that I was just laying out right there. I lay it out for you, tell you exactly how I help you do it and what shifts you need to make in order to get yourself to your next level in business, because there's only so much that hard work and talent are going to get you. At some point, you got to get systematic about what you're doing. I'm a systems guy. I'm a process guy. I'm a strategy guy. So if I'm speaking your language, go to workonyourgame.net and see what I had to say in that training. At the end of that training, there will be a link that comes up for you to schedule a call with me. Do that by going to, again, workonyourgame.net. Now tomorrow, we get back to the normal business. Now that you know who I am, we get back to the normal business. Work on your game. Dre all day.